Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, beautiful souls. I want to start this off with this. Aging, the inevitable process that cannot be rewound. Within the grips of its continuum, we experience spiritual, mental, and physical change. Where some embrace and accept it, others fight it and attempt to stall or alter that which cannot be altered. The blessing of wisdom that comes along with aging is filled with wrong roads, lessons learned, and the opportunity to be better. There is a fearlessness in the soul of an artist, a flickering light that fuels the passion of those with destinies, often larger than life. Welcome to Season 7, Episode 10 of A Touch of Grace. I am Glenn Grace. I'm your host. Now, Tomas Boykin, the man I'm going to be interviewing in just a moment, very distinguished actor, a phenomenal human being. The last time I got a chance to talk to him was back on April 25th, 2014. Now, I'm going to do my best not to let these butterflies affect how I'm moving today, but for some reason, they're just all over the place. So bear with me if I stumble over some words, but I want to give this man an introduction from his IMDb page. Born and raised in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, PA, Tomas Boykin was born to a musician father and a stay-at-home mom. It could be said that the trajectory of Boykin's career as a creative was set early in childhood. He was encouraged to act in plays as early as the third grade. Now, Tomas has not only done stage plays, he has also been in numerous films. 1999's Among Thieves, Haunting of Winchester House, 20th Century Fox's riveting religious drama I Am, Voodoo Possession, and he's even been in some NBC shows, Parenthood, and ABC's How to Get Away with Murder. So I'm not sure why the butterflies are just kind of trying to take over today, but I'm not going to let them stop this fabulous interview. I was looking forward to interviewing Mr. Tomas Boykin, and I'm going to welcome him to the show. Hey, Tomas, thank you for correcting me and how I was pronouncing your name. How you doing this morning?
I am fantastic. No reason to have butterflies, though.
Well, you know what? Spoken like a true professional. I have to ask you, I did theater I was on a stage play of The Wiz back in the late 80s, right around the time we had our big earthquake, and I never got over stage fright. So because you started as young as you did you encounter it when you first started, and do you sometimes run into it now that you're pretty seasoned right about now?
I don't really run into stage fright. It's more like an excitement, you know. It's like getting revved up. But I think stage fright is definitely real, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I remember doing a play eons ago in New York, and I saw somebody experience stage fright, and they ran off the stage.
Ouch.
And so it's definitely real, and I guess I sort of developed a ritual. You know, whenever I'm doing theater, I sort of develop a ritual that I sort of stick to, and it varies from production to production. Film is a little bit different. You know, there's not that same thing. The stage fright in film is the time crunch, the money, the shot, and there are people depending on you to hit that mark, to hit that performance that is going to go into the final print. So that's a different kind of stage fright. It's a different kind of pressure. But all of it, I think, if you do this work long enough, you become sort of acclimated to it, and in that you got to turn it around to a certain level of excitement. Oh, I'm getting excited to do this. Okay, we're about to go. We're about to go. So let's do it.
It's yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you. It's funny because sometimes I'm real calm, but we've been networking for numerous years now, and I'm just in awe of your talent and many talents that come across the airwaves that are so gracious that they would even want me to interview them on my show, and I hold you in such a high regard.
Thank you.
Yeah, I honestly do. And I told the listeners a little bit about your early beginnings, but my mother and father really, it wasn't that they discouraged me. Usually
right.
my mother and dad would always want me to, get a 9-to-5, be there for 30 years and then retire, and I worked a lot, but I certainly am still out here pushing it. So that had to be an incredible experience that your parents were behind you. So what type of student were you in school? Were you the nerd? Were you the artist? Were you the jock? How would you describe yourself in early life?
Probably, I don't know, 10-20% nerd, and then the other 80% would be jock and artist. My dad was a musician. I played tennis. I played junior tennis, which is how I got the name Tomas. And I also did plays. So it might be said that I was a composite of all three of those characters that you mentioned. But at a certain point with athletics, I ran track, played football, high school football, and tennis. But tennis ended up being more. I stuck with that longer, all the way up into college, and then it just got too expensive. Tennis is a very expensive endeavor, but I continued doing plays all throughout. Elementary, grade school, college, high school, and because my dad was a musician, I guess it was just a nice segue. So yeah, an answer to that question would be I was all of those.
Yeah, well, like I said, spoken like a true entertainer. There's something else that you did too, and I want to try to figure out how, you got through all of this. So it says here, by the end of your college career, you were in pre-law with a major in criminal justice. Now, did you delve into that? Did you have an opportunity to explore that part of your curriculum as a human being?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I was always fascinated by crime, and even as a kid. I was fascinated by criminology. I paid an awful lot of attention to documented and reported crimes that took place in the tri-state area where I grew up. Philly, Jersey, New York, Delaware, the Delaware Valley, and I was also fascinated by organized crime. Living in Philly at the time that I grew up, pretty much, from the 70s into the late 80s, there was a lot of mafia activity in the tri-state area. And depending on where you lived in Philly, I grew up in Southwest Philly, I would see actual mobsters, Italian mobsters, the black mafia. So I saw that stuff. I saw these guys going to meetings, and I saw the nice cars and the nice clothing, and my dad being a musician, going to there used to be a music store on Arch Street in Philly, and I would go with him from time to time. And there was a burlesque club not too far from it. I think it was pretty much next door to it, called the Trocadero. And as a kid, I would sort of sneak in there, and so I would see all of these figures. Mm-hmm. I would see a lot. I saw a lot as a kid.
It kind of reminds me of. Oh, go ahead. No, I want you to finish.
I was going to say, so much so that my dad would, say, don't tell anyone you saw this stuff. But what I wanted to say quickly is that being fascinated by the mob, the reason I was pre-law is I wanted to be Tom Hagen from The Godfather. Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted to do. I thought, and that was the figure in La Cosa Nostra that was least likely to get whacked or murdered. So I thought, well, I could be a lawyer and have one client. And I just thought, when I saw The Godfather, Tom Hagen was just such a cool character. And I thought I could do that. So that was, I know that sounds seedy, but, and very, criminal oriented, but that was sort of the fantasy. And thank God I didn't pursue that.
Well, thank God you did. How close do you think you came, or when was your wake-up moment where you go, okay, enough with this fascination, because I know I'm not going to step foot in that arena?
I don't think I ever. I know. Well, I didn't go to law school. I took the LSATs, but I didn't go to law school. And acting was always just a constant, and so much so that I had been doing it for such a long while, without really acknowledging that I was doing it, and never really thinking about it as a choice of a profession. It's just, and it's not something too. It's an odd profession. It's not something that you wake up and say, it's not like, well, I'm going to go into computer programming. I'm going to be an attorney. I'm going to be, you don't really just wake up and say, I think I'm going to be an actor. It's sort of a private internal thing that you do, that you sort of decide to yourself and others who are close to you. So this is what you do. That you're an actor. And even then, there were times when people would say, so you're an actor. And I would kind of brush it. No, I do plays from town now, now and again. But I wouldn't really, I don't know why, I wouldn't really admit it. And then at a certain point, I just thought, you know what, this is what I do.
What's interesting about you, Tomas? First of all, the photos you take are just so intriguing. It's just, they're classic. They are timeless. They could easily be pictures that were taken back in times, probably even before our birth. It's just, you're just such an interesting. There's an allure about you. Something very intriguing and mysterious. Kind of like when Samuel Jackson played that. I can't think of the guy he played. He was in a wheelchair, and it was this crazy-ass movie that he was in. It's almost like a mad professor, There's a depth to you that's pretty interesting. Now, I'm looking at some of the choices that you made as far as acting. You have Of Mice and Men, which is a classic. You also have Among Thieves, The Haunting of Winchester Mystery House. What is your thought process behind, saying, oh, okay, so this is, let me go audition for this particular thing. Is there something that draws you more than other types of genre?
That's a good question. Because, actors just want to stay employed, but then, through representation, through the representatives I've had, either in New York or here, you begin to actively develop a brand then other times it's tricky because you can develop a brand or a liking to certain kinds of material, or then also too you can get pigeonholed. And I don't think I've ever been pigeonholed, which I just never really worried about that. But in terms of I love characters that tend to be emotionally challenged, that have to go through some type of emotional journey. I don't, I'm not too big on archetypes, the hero or the. I'm more in love with cusp characters, characters that embody a curious admixture of colors. Not so much the guy who wears the black hat or the guy that wears the white hat, but the guy who wears the gray hat. Who is a darker shade of gray now, a lighter shade of gray later on. And those characters tend to be a lot more interesting. A film that's on the festival circuit right now that I did is called Dead Mail, and we got a lot of attention at South by Southwest Film Festival a couple of months ago in Austin. And that character is a character that I really loved because he's a loner. He is, you constantly wonder what his background was. And people have asked me, what informed this guy who investigates lost mail and then Dead Mail. My character, Jasper Lawrence, receives this letter with blood on it. And so he traces the origins of the letter. But for me, what really helped me with that character, I love that character so much, was that a lot of actors they wait tables or they bust tables in between gigs, just to keep food on the table. And I didn't do that. That wasn't my route. Me being fascinated with criminology and the crime diaspora, I was a skip tracer. I was a person who was hired whenever I couldn't get acting jobs. I was the person who was hired by private attorneys to locate assets of people without them knowing it, and finding people without them knowing it. And so attorneys would pay me to do this, like the character I played, Jasper Lawrence in Dead Mail. I would be sectioned off into a little office that was either in the basement or somewhere sectioned off, different phone number. And this was all during analog. This is before smartphones. And the internet had just started, but not really.
So you had to do some research by newspapers, libraries? I mean, what was that process like?
That process was aliases and modifying my voice, doing accents. I had 57 aliases at one point when I was doing skip tracing. The money was really good. And so a divorcee, she's going through this bad divorce. This would be the scenario. And she would hire the attorney. The attorney would come to me and see what you can find on this guy. He's here. He could be here. And so I would get a little bit of information, maybe a phone number, which would almost always be a wrong number. So then I would have to find the real number. And at that time, I would go through, if the person had, a cable bill, cable bill, utilities bill, whatever information I could develop, I would use that information to gain more information. Then that information, what I got, say, the person's bank account or whatever, or where they were located because they couldn't be found, that information would go to the attorney. Then the attorney would be able to execute his case.
Interesting.
Or her case. Yeah,
it
was interesting work.
Well, you know what? Let me ask you a question about that type of work. It almost seems like there was a certain danger, especially prior to the internet and all this other stuff. Was there ever a dicey situation that you found yourself in, or were you truly a ghost while you were doing it?
I was a ghost.
Okay.
That was the point. Yeah, I was a ghost. I mean, if I were in if I had certain hours, and then I would go in auditions. But if I were in, say, a major law firm, they hired me out, and there were I don't know, 10 or 15 attorneys. So it's a major firm.
Mm-hmm.
I could be in there. Who's that guy who's always coming in? And he's in that other office. And so I could be virtually unknown in a company, but that's because of the work I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
And but there was no danger, I didn't go out or anything like that. I didn't have a camera or anything. Everything I did, like I said, I had 57 aliases, and I had accents, and I had information, and that informed my character Jasper Lawrence in Dead Meal. So
right, that's what I figured. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question. I learned a little bit about method acting, and with some of the greats that are no longer here, like your Heath Ledger when he did the Joker, and then there was, I guess, Chris Farley. I think it was Chris Farley, where they get so deep into the character that it's almost hard for them to get out of it. I've heard that some have had to go to therapy and, to try to undo this character. So what has your experience been, and have you ever experienced that method acting thing?
Well, I think, through training you can. No, if you're trained, you can do that. I think it's more or less a choice. I think method acting, it was fashionable in the 70s and 80s. It's sort of a source of mockery now, but it could be said that, the work that we witnessed in the 70s and 80s and late 60s was a lot better,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a choice. I enjoy seeing it when it's done. I think Daniel Day-Lewis is I think he sits at a table by himself. I think there are a lot of great actors who sit at a table and they sit there together. But DDEL has a big table all by himself, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I think, what Meryl Streep does is I know when I was a much younger actor, even when I was in college, I looked at the stuff she did and I thought, well, maybe I should be a plumber. She was so I'm like, okay, so this is what this involves. Wow. How do you get there? So I think it can be a choice. I think in terms of turning it off, I don't think you can buy too much into that. But it's, if you're really trained, you don't have to bring that character home, and unless you really want to.
I got chills when you said that. You said you don't have to bring that character home unless you want to. That's heavy.
Yeah, I think so. Because you have to compartmentalize. And now when I'm on set, I'm pretty quiet. And even when I'm in, in the theater, I'm pretty quiet. I usually find some place in the theater where I can sit and be alone for a while. I like to visit, depending on how big the theater is, I like to go to parts of it where people aren't, because large theaters are like churches. And when I'm on a set, I'm pretty quiet. I try not to impose on anybody because a lot of other, on-screen artists are doing the same thing, So, but bringing I've had to recover physically from at home because of a character I played, Voodoo Possession, where I played a Haitian character, and I had to speak a foreign language, and I was voodoo possessed. I remember coming home and when we were done filming, when we had wrapped, my elbows were swollen, my knees were swollen because of the physical, the trembling and the physical manifestation of being voodoo possessed and what that involves. And that was very physical. Along with the language.
Yeah, that sounds intense because me being not religious but a very spiritual person, I believe that there are spirits out there. I most certainly have felt them, and and I often wondered. I was looking at The Devil's Advocate the other,
right.
some scenes from that, and how Al Pacino played, Satan. I guess that was his character, and then some of the words that he was saying that was part of the script. And like I said, I'm not religious, but I mean, there are certain words, that I'm thinking, well, how do you not invoke whatever it is when you are, just playing a role, and it seems to be like he's doing okay as far as I know. I think he's a father, at 80 years old or something like that. But yeah. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. Let me ask you this question. It's two parts. What was your worst experience on stage that you remember? And then what was your best experience on stage? And you could pick whichever one you want to do first.
Worst experience on stage was probably and it's just one of those things where you feel like when you obviously you don't feel the same way all the time. Sometimes you can have, a person may have a headache, they may have really bad, upset stomach, which can get really interesting. Or you may have, your day may have informed the performance, and the same thing with that happens in film as well. But probably the worst experience on stage was I had a key scene with an actor in a play, and he was just one step shy of knocked out drunk.
Ew.
And that was kind of like being with someone else, and he was able to carry it off. There were a couple of times I had to improvise, but that is just one of those frightening types of situations to be in. That was probably, or where technical things happen,
right.
like electrical problems. And electrical problems are next to water.
Lord.
Or all of a sudden it goes dark, so that can really be troubling. Best time on stage is when, if I'm not experiencing the worst time, then all of them are really great experiences. There's something that happens when you perform. I can't describe it. What performing is like, be it on film or be it on stage. It's just you can't really describe it. And there's an exchange of energy. The best thing
about
performing.
That's what I was going to say, like endorphins or something. Yeah.
Yeah, the exchange of energy is just, it's uneven. For the actor, there's the actor, and then there's the audience, and the audience depending on that audience, that's a lot of different energy. If you're in front of 500 people, then that's 500 people opposite that one person. If you're on set, if you're that actor in that key scene, and there's energy that's coming from the crew, the director, everybody, and that exchange it's addictive. You grow to love that, and depending on the spectrum of need, in a healthy way, you need it.
Well, let me ask you this question. You are just so fascinating to me. And I'm pretty sure after this interview, I'm going to listen to the playback before I upload it onto my YouTube channel. And I'm going to go, why didn't you say this? Why didn't you ask that? Because I've watched your career just blossom. You just keep adding on to your resume. Do you think that you have performed your, I know I always forget how this works. It's opus magnum, I think is how you say it. Your D1, where it's like a mic drop performance. Have you did that yet?
No. I mean, I've done things that I'm satisfied. Well, that's Glenn, that's the part of the quest. Like Sade said, it's never as good as the first time. And at a certain point, you forget it. Forget that first time because time passes. But I know the quest is you never get there. It's a constant investigation, constant exploration. That's why you have your Pacinos and your Freemans and your De Niros who are doing this work into their 80s. They're still looking, they're still seeking, and they're still searching. So you just continue. You continue on. It's a constant quest for discovering new ways, and depending on how adept you are at reinventing yourself, it just goes on and on and on. I can't see ever retiring from this. Mm-hmm. I can't see that. You just keep doing it.
I'm glad you said that because, in a society of ageism, I think, I started to show off with this, as we get older, people try to stop the process. They try to stop the inevitable when in reality, you just continue to ride it and evolve into whatever it is you're going to be into your last breath. And, so I like how eloquently you put that. It's constantly a learning process. Some of us, are plagued with health issues or, dementia and all this other stuff. But as long as you have air, as long as you have your right mind, you could ride this thing well into your 80s and 90s. I think there was an actress that was like 90-something years old and she's still out here doing it,
Yeah, you just, and the work becomes, the work drives you too. Sometimes the work can be a pain in the ass because of not the work itself, but there's the work and then there's the work that it takes to do the work. Right. A big part of this, there's no application that you fill out to become an actor or to become a creative in the film and TV industry. It is it's a journey, and I think what's most difficult for people is that they, inside the insanity of comparative analysis, they try to find patterns. Such and such did this, or such and such is doing this, and you have to turn that around to how you can be inspired by other people, other performers. But the work, like my partners and I are trying to get this TV show done. It's an episodic drama on a serial on criminal justice reform. Okay. And this is 10 plus years, and it's been difficult to get it done. And it's a unique show It will be a unique show because I don't think there's ever been narrative work done on criminal justice reform, because criminal justice reform is happening as we speak. It's like climate change. You know what I mean? It's not finite. So, we've been at this thing 10 plus years. We've had multiple meetings, and people get it. They understand it, and they'll say, well, what's the setup? And so I tell them, 2 consecutive vicious acts of violence, one of which occurs at an LA juvenile detention facility, lay bare multiple levels of systemic corruption in the Los Angeles juvenile justice system, giving rise to an all-out political battle over criminal justice reform with national implications. And that's what we're doing. But it's not easy. It's difficult to get that type of social impact programming greenlit.
Do you think it is because it's almost like oh God, I hate when I forget what I want to say, but it's almost like a ban, like they don't want it out there, because what I see, and I look, which is why I meditate as much as I do now, there is so much blatant crime that is taking place right now across the United States, because I could see that all the time, but I know that it's happening in Australia. There were the 3 surfers that were down in Baja that just got, murdered. It just seems to me like the whole criminal element is expanding. And, as approaching 62, I look back in time, I'm thinking, we used to be able to go to a mall and not have to worry about, somebody pulling out a gun, and mowing down a bunch of people or going to college. It seems to me like those were like, minute instances, to where, to me, now it is just like an explosion. So it sounds to me like you're trying to inject something good, something thought-provoking, you and your friends, into society. Do you think that they're trying to put a cap on it because there's some grander scheme that doesn't want it?
No, not really. I don't think that. I just think that I don't think that. Because I think there's no, like I say, it's happening right now. So in terms of criminal justice reform, we're only at body cams. That's as far as we've gotten with that, and that was my major in college, criminal justice. So it's not, and criminal justice reform isn't just the cops. It's criminal justice reform is everything about the criminal justice system, including the citizenry. And with our show, everyone's involved. Big pharma, the school board, the American family, how we respond to it. I think, our show is more about how we all play a part in so much of what we don't like in a system that is supposed to, in the best possible way, take care of us and make us better people. Rehabilitation is the goal.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'll just leave it at that. Recidivism is more often than not the norm. So those two facets are counter to one another. So, but I don't think it's one of those things where there's this faction of gatekeepers. Oh, we can't let this be seen. No, we've gotten a lot of positive. The one thing we got was at one point somebody, which we didn't foresee, people were saying, this reminds me of The Wire, how it's all, it encompasses so much. But all of that to say, you got to stay. You got to stay. You got to keep going. You got to keep going. And we've been going with this for a while. We believe we have a good show running right now. So we're going to just keep pursuing until we get it on. And, just keep going.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so on your acting thing, and then we could kind of wrap it up because I know you're a busy guy. A couple of things. You were very active and outspoken during the actors' strike. So speaking to an actual actor, did you guys really get what you want after the resolution? Did it truly work out for you guys, or is it just a snow job that they're that they presented to you guys?
What a great question that is too. I think that's an essay question.
Okay.
I think depending on who you speak to, it's this. I'll go to the streaming thing. I think,
right.
Residuals are a lot different now, and what I've heard a few famous people say about where we are right now. Where we are right now is that the best work we're all at a place where we have to do the best work that we possibly can. Mm-hmm. Like if you're a producer or a writer, you just have to put out the best shit that can be put out. And hopefully someone will see it. In terms of how people get paid, I think they're still trying to work that out. It's still hard to quantify what's going on with streaming. Mm-hmm. How we get paid. Residuals aren't what they used to be. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're totally not there at all. So in terms of the AI thing, I think AI is something that you can make work for you. And then, for some people, I think it's a big boogeyman. I think it's too early to see if things are going to be to our liking as creatives with respect to the strike. What I can tell you, I was thinking about it with streaming. Well, the one thing that streaming did was it democratized the exposure of diversity. Diversity is very political in Hollywood. You hear these executives saying, "Well, we struggle with that," and they're talking about getting more people of color in places. But through streaming, you can look at you have access to look at pretty much whatever you want to look at.
Exactly.
It's great. If you want to, my partner, she looks at shows and she can look at a show that is similar to This Is Us, and it takes place in Nigeria. And that's because of streaming. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to look at that kind of show and it's Korean, you might be able to find that.
Oh,
depending on what app you're on. Yeah, so everything's on. Now a spectrum of quality goes from super bad to brilliant. So I think the jury's still out on what the results of the strike is going to be. Am I completely satisfied? No, not at all. I mean, auditions are very different now. Mm-hmm. Auditions are infrequent.
And so well, let me ask this question. When you say that they're different, is it different because it's more of like what the hospitals are doing, where, we're going to do a video, of you, a FaceTime. I'm like, you can't tell what's wrong with me on a video, So is it because
no, that part of it is not that. I don't mind doing
Video audition?
Yeah, I don't mind doing auditions in my home. I mean, you learn to be a filmmaker. It's amazing because if I have an audition, you got to set things up. You got to get the right lighting.
Right.
It's a whole process. So it involves other people. So my partner and I got to move furniture. We got to put lights in a certain place. Got to get behind, get a certain background, and that stuff just prepping can take a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to do the audition. You do multiple takes, and you get the one that you want. And keep in mind, you're getting the help of other people, or, that one other person who's reading with you, who's off camera. Mm-hmm. Then after you do that, those multiple takes, and you finally get the one you want, then you got to go into the technical aspects of, uploading the audition, making sure it's the right amount of gigabytes and it's not too large. You know what I'm saying? That you feel like a filmmaker.
Right. It's a process.
But that said, the other side of auditioning is, I don't audition as much. Mm-hmm. Not nearly as much. So there's that. When do you get to, how many, you could, it wasn't abnormal to have 3 or 4 auditions a week, or 2 a week, or 7 a month, and a lot of folks I know, that's not happening.
Wow.
That is not happening. And that's a result in many parts because of the strike.
Yeah. I remember, watching, my whole taste for, watching something or reading something has changed. I'm kind of like, I'll use the Marvel overdone. It's like, okay, how many more times can we see this same person over and over and over again? So I look for something unique that's gonna, grab my attention. I'll even go back to black and white movies to see something. It's like my attention span as I've gotten older is not where it was, and I most certainly don't have the, I think after This Is Us, maybe after This Is Us ended, Charmed, I was really much into Charmed. That ended, and I think a couple of shows on, like Greenleaf on OWN. I really liked the layers of that. And then Queen Sugar, toward the end of that, I got really bored. So I'm not really sure where that's coming from. I don't know if it's just that I'm so preoccupied with my spirituality and trying to look into something new that's going to kind of open my insight up about life. But most certainly, well, let me ask you this question on a final note, Tomas, and I'm glad I'm getting your name right. Is there something? Is there something that you want the listeners to know? A new project you're working on, or something that you want to promote on this platform, so that people know where to find you and your friends?
Well, I mean, there's our TV show, which we're actively working on, and which, by the way, Stanley Clark is going to do the score for the show.
Incredible artist. Incredible.
Yeah, I love him. And he's a fellow Philadelphian. Right now on the festival circuit is Dead Mail, which is just, I'm so grateful to be a part of that. The 2 directors, Joe DeBoer and Kyle McConaughey, I think this is their second outing, so as directors, and they pretty much already established themselves as auteurs. I mean, they have a very distinct aesthetic to their work, and I know the film is going to be at a festival in France and in Germany. It hasn't been released to the public yet, but it's work that I'm very, very proud of. And is
there a trailer out about that, or maybe when I was kind of,
There is.
That's what I thought. I said,
Yeah.
I know I've seen a trailer for that.
Yeah, there's a trailer for Dead Mail, and there's even been a sort of chorus inquiry into my character. People finding out, wanting to know, what is the backstory to Jasper Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
What is this guy's backstory? Where did he come from? So that's interesting. But yeah, that's the main project I have. I have other projects that are going to go into post-production. But Dead Mail is the one right now that I'm very happy about because it's out there, and it should be, as soon as we get a buyer, it should be available to the public very soon.
Okay. Well, I wish you all the success, your humility, your kindness, your commitment to the craft, being a fellow creator. You really inspire me, and I know that you inspire so many others out there. And it is a privilege to have you on the Touch of Grace's platform, because I think the world of you. And I just want to say thank you so much for being aboard. Yeah.
Thank you for having me, and I really appreciate those kind words. It's been 10 years, huh?
Yeah, it's been 10 years, man.
Yeah.
And like I said, I never forget good people, and the sky and beyond. I won't even say sky's the limit. Sky and beyond for you and your team. And you're welcome back anytime. You've got my number. You know how to get in touch with me. Just hit me up if you ever want to be back on the show. To promote anything.
Like I said, thank you for when I got your message the other day, when you asked if I was open to being interviewed, I thought, wow, it's been a long time, and I thought, well, how long has it been? So so thank you for remembering me and thinking of me again, and I really appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome, Tomas. And know that Glenn is one of the people in the wings watching your brilliance.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's very kind.
All right. Well, you have a wonderful day. Thanks for being on the show, and I'll be in touch.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. God bless.
You too. Bye.
Okay, for those of you who are just tuning in, that is the distinguished and talented actor, Tomas Boykin. Fabulous guy. I just, my thing with creatives and people that are out in the entertainment field, I really like to deal with people who, treat other people well. I mean, to be given a God-given talent like that, and to just be so kind still, it's just amazing. And like I said, it's been like 10 years since I spoke with Tomas, but I certainly have been following his career. So the next on deck is going to be Laura Poindexter. She is going to be on the 13th of May. She is a powerhouse as far as energy. So you just have to catch that show. I'm not going to have any spoilers with that. But I do want to leave you with this. Life. The mysterious phenomenon. So many attempt to figure out through ancient scrolls or crumbling artifacts. Sometimes long, other times brief. It is witty, unpredictable, and has a final bridge that we all must cross. So this is Glenn signing off for today's show. Thank you, people from around the globe, for your support. If you are interested in being a guest on the show, hit me up on my email, author GD Grace. If you have a bio or a link, I'll check it out. Make sure you're a fit for the show. I love giving people that are out in the industry and other creatives, a platform to talk about their incredible work. So thank you so much for your time, and you take care. Carpe diem equals live your life.
It's important to properly dispose of unwanted medication or sharps. MedProject offers free and convenient disposal options near you. To learn more, call 844-MED-PROJECT or visit medproject.org.
Driverless cars. You have arrived. Advanced robotics. Smartphones. Even the device you're currently listening to. What do they have in common? They're all powered by semiconductor chips and those who make them. For nearly 50 years, KLA has created advanced solutions that refine chip manufacturing while advancing humanity and making our world a brighter place. And we have career opportunities in Milpitas. Learn why KLA is a Fortune World's Most Admired Company and apply at KLA.com.